magical synth adventure.
Sometimes people ask me, Paulie, why are you always going on about the Commodore Amiga? 1995, I think I got my Amiga for £100, which I got it for second hand. It was something that like a 13-year-old could sample on. I can route those samples through like filters and wave shapers and things like that. I've got my tracker going behind me, by the way.
Nice.
Let's see the nails. Oh my god.
There's plenty of deserving vintage computer platforms after all, and many of them feature interesting musical possibilities. But for me, none of them offer quite the range of exciting audio opportunities as the Amiga. Tracker tunes full of gritty samples combined with chiptune waveforms and arpeggiations. Quirky software synths full of unique features. Real-time speech synthesis. Simultaneous MIDI and audio output. Perfect for Eurorack modular integration. In 1995, there weren't many musical options open to your average 13-year-old. My first Amiga allowed me to record and manipulate audio for the first time, and then combine these samples with MIDI synthesizers or drum machines, usually borrowed from school. If you're interested, there's a detailed account of my early Amiga experiences in Amiga Addict issue 18. It's worth mentioning how welcoming and encouraging the Amiga community is, largely, and how many friends I've made along the way. I currently own 4 Amigas. 2 of them, the A500 Plus and A1200, are classed as wedge machines, the type of machine that a 90s kid would likely own. The remaining 2 are classed as big box machines and feature an extensive Zorro expansion bus. There are many graphical and musical expansions available for this bus. My A3000, for example, contains an AD516 sound card. But today, we are going to focus on the internal sound chip that all Amigas share, Paula. From the late 1970s to the mid-1980s, most computer sound chips were designed with fixed architectures. Paula has her own thing going on. She produces 4 channels of 8-bit sampled sound with variable rates up to around 28 kHz, 2 channels panned left and 2 channels panned right. Designed by Glenn Keller, samples played via Paula might simply be digital recordings or entirely synthetic sounds that stir the imagination.
At some point we decided to improve the audio. I think it only had 8 bits, period, with no pulse modulation. And I had talked to the layout guys and we found out that we could probably improve it quite a lot in the same area if we did, you know, A, B, and C. And Jay gave the okay to, we built an entirely new breadboard with the new audio structure. And it was quite a lot better than the original architecture. I kind of expected that the whole thing would disappear. And so, you know, the fact that it seems to actually be reviving, and there seems to be, you know, still people, well, a lot of people still having all this enthusiasm and how great it is and enjoying it so much. It's like, it's wonderful.
Another computer of the era capable of playing sampled sound was the Macintosh. The Mac used the CPU to drive 2 logic chips and output a stereo audio signal at 8-bit 22 kHz. This method taxed the Motorola 68000 CPU considerably. The Amiga Museum explains.
On the Macintosh, to play a sound, the CPU needs to load the next bit of sample data into the sound register over 22,000 times a second, interrupting whatever else it may be doing at the time. The CPU can only do one thing at a time, so this effectively slows the CPU quite a lot. On the Amiga, using the Pooler chip, the CPU tells Pooler where in chip RAM the sample is stored, how long to play it for, and what rate to play it at. Then, Pooler is able to play the sound in its entirety without any intervention from the CPU, unless for some reason the sound needs to be stopped early. The Amiga is the superior machine.
And remember, Pooler does this with true 4-voice polyphony. A popular contemporary Mac soft synth, 1988's Turbo Synth, is a strictly non-real-time affair. You set up the patch and press the spacebar to preview your creation in 8-bit 22 kHz before sending it via MIDI to your 12 or 16-bit sampler. Now don't get me wrong, the Amiga way of doing things was innovative, but there are limits. Some sound generation methods like additive or 6-operator FM were too much for the old 68K. So there exists non-real-time soft synths too. Yet even these are interesting and make perfect sampler fodder for your musical creations. Another scarcely documented feature of Pooler is that each channel can AM or FM the channel next to it. Whilst it is rare to find software that takes advantage of this channel modulation, you can turn it on or off with a short assembler program. Why not run it on your favourite piece of music to hear what chaos unfolds? Now, onto the synths. Let's start with some real-time soft synths. You might use these as is in a track, or run them through external effects. Either way, be prepared for some unique sounds. Aegis Sonics is a digital audio workstation released commercially around 1986. It features a 4-voice polyphonic soft synth. Sonics has everything you might expect. Standard subtractive waveforms, a filter, LFO, and an envelope. However, it has 1 or 2 exotic additions. Waveform-wise, you can easily mix in the 2nd or 3rd harmonic. Most exciting is the chance to draw your own waveform for both the oscillator and the LFO. The phase parameter alters the waveform in a PWM-like manner. Sonics also features a notation editor. Referenced in my clickbaity title, a beta version of Sonics called Musicraft hails from December 1985. This version has somewhat glitched graphics, but is otherwise feature complete. It's certainly the first soft synth to run in a draggable window. Similar to Sonics, Jamcracker has a phase control, which allows you to liven up its drawable waveforms. It features a tracker-like sequencer and can play back samples too.
And later on, it was only, people were saying, this is a great computer. And it was only quite a lot later on that I kind of understood. And later on,
Deluxe Sound is one for you experimental noise artists. You can play back a sample, alter its pitch,
quite a lot later on that
and
I
AM or
understood.
FM
And later
that
on,
sample.
it was only, people were saying, this is a great computer. And it was only quite a lot later on that I kind of understood. You know, people were saying, you know, this is a great computer, and it was only quite a lot later on that I kind of understood. People were saying, you know, this is a great, and it was only quite a lot later on that I
An earlier version of Deluxe Sound has a few differences. Most notably, the frequency of the AM and FM is much higher, giving you interesting pitched tones. Wholesome story time, I used Sonic Arranger in one of my music videos. And one of the development team, Carsten Herbst, reached out to me and said he was thrilled that someone was using his software all these years later. Again, we have drawable waveforms, but here, you can affect them with so many different algorithms. Shackwave, Wave Alias, and FM Drum, to name but a few.
I mean, it's good enough to be like the opening to a movie. I'm not even joking. Like, it is that good.
Finally, Octamed Sound Studio, my happy place. Essentially, you draw a few waves and then string them together in a wavetable.
I used to be a one-trick kid. Then I was no Quincy. Then I tried to say a beauty queen. Now I'm getting older.
Music Line from 1995 is essentially a slightly more complex variant of this. These synth packages work more in the standard 90s computing paradigm. The synth parameters are set, and then the program renders the sound to a sample that can be played from RAM or saved to disk. You can't talk about the music studio without mentioning this rocking tune. Essentially an 8-partial additive synthesizer. BC Sound Engine specializes in percussive synthesis. Different oscillator and noise types combine through various resonators and envelope settings to create a large variety of drum sounds. Art of noise includes a tracker, sample editor, and an interesting FM synth. It's only 2-operator. But there are a number of really interesting waveforms. Here we go. Easy FM from 1990 is a fully fledged 6-operator FM soft synth. Algorithms, feedback, the full shebang. Once the sound is rendered, you can play it with full voice polyphony on the QWERTY keyboard, and then export an 8 or 16-bit sample. Harmonics is another good learning tool. Harmonic changes are clearly shown in the waveform display. You can even save out the waveforms. Sample Maker is a basic wavetable editor, but one with some cool effects. My favorite is Manipulate. Cynthia from 1987. Cynthia contains 5 different synths. I enjoy the retro design of this one. In this mode, the 16 harmonic envelopes are a little unwieldy, yet with some patience, you can create some quite interesting sounds. I have proved unsuccessful in my experiments with these 2 pieces of software, so need further time to experiment. Synthetica especially looks quite interesting, seeming to be a fully fledged modular synth. If you're interested in trying out the Amiga platform today, there are many options. You could try an emulator like WinUAE on the PC. The audio emulation is spot on, including those channel modulation shenanigans. For an emulation package in a cute retro desktop form factor, look into the Raspberry Pi 400, reviewed here by Dan Wood. Real Amigas are, of course, fun to get into, but there are a number of technical hurdles you might need to overcome. Software is available online. Sites include Dreamland Exotica and Grandis.nu. There's plenty of further viewing when it comes to Amiga music. Me and Amiga Bill did a big stream on making music with the Amiga, and there's a fantastic video that Citrix did on Amiga sampling. Dan Wood covers many Amiga topics on his channel, some audio related, and Miss Mad Lemon has showcased her creativity in a number of videos on her channel. Finally, RMC's comprehensive Amiga MIDI myth-busting video features a wealth of content from a variety of YouTubers. If you're curious to hear more Amiga music, I guess you can start with mine. My Vogue Reneg project utilizes the Amiga in many ways, from MIDI sequencing to soft synths, and even real-time effects. Perhaps I'll cover such effects in a future video. Other musicians to search for include Hoffman, Citrix, and DJ Formula. In fact, I'm playing a sellout show with a few of these guys in July. After all that, you still might not get it, especially if you have no nostalgia for the machine, and that's okay. I hope at very least I've managed to impress you with the staggering variety of sounds that can be made with a computer sound chip from 1985. I've been Paulie Alex Bow. Please like and subscribe.